The man who controlled my career didn't just have power, he had a phone call that could erase you. Have you ever been publicly humiliated on purpose, just to remind you who's in charge? Can you imagine choosing one forbidden thing and watching the people who owned your life suddenly panic? Because that's what happened to me. He was the kind of person who could close doors you didn't even know existed. Jobs, references, social circles, even bank approvals. He mapped my life like a schedule. Who I could talk to, what I could say, where I had to smile, and when I was expected to nod. And then I broke the rule they never forgive. I chose a person over a platform. So he made sure my punishment was public, at a charity gala, in front of cameras, donors, and colleagues who'd called me partner material that same morning. He raised a glass and announced I was professionally unfit and that my name was already being removed from the promotion list. People stared like I'd become a stain on their designer shoes. I stood under the spotlights, watching my phone lose access to my own life. Call after call, contact after contact. He didn't know this would become his biggest mistake. Hi, I'm Tessa Morgan. I'm 29, originally from Bristol in the UK. I was working in New York in compliance for a major law firm, and I truly believed I had control over my future. If you're watching, subscribe, because what happens next is the kind of story people hide behind closed doors. And tell me where you're watching from and what your local time is. I read every single comment. I mean it. Now rewind 5 months. Back to the day I realized I wasn't being mentored. I was being managed. It was one of those mornings on the top floor where the carpet is so thick your footsteps feel like whispers, and the air smells like expensive coffee and polished metal, glass walls, Manhattan in the distance, and in the center of it all, Harlan Kane, senior partner, not just my boss. The architect of other people's lives. On his desk was a folder with no title, just my initials, TM, like I wasn't a person, just a project. Tessa, he said without looking up, you're too talented to waste yourself on randomness. We've prepared a trajectory for you. We? I asked, forcing a smile I didn't feel. He looked up, calm and precise, like he was stamping a document. The Partnership Council, and some people outside this firm were obligated to. He tapped the folder. You're on track for promotion next quarter, but there's a condition. I didn't speak. In rooms like that, silence is the only currency you're allowed to keep. You'll attend certain events. You'll be appropriate. He paused, flipping a page like it was a menu. And you'll stop seeing people who don't fit our risk profile. My personal life isn't a risk profile, I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were cold. I'm not an asset. He tilted his head slightly, like an adult listening to a child's tantrum. In our world, he said softly, freedom is a privilege, not a right. The way he said it, gentle, almost caring, was what made it terrifying. Are you offering me a deal? I asked. Sell my life for a title? I'm offering you survival, he replied. And I'm reminding you, I can close problems, or I can open them. He tapped my initials again. Think about it by the end of the week. Be rational. Rationality gets rewarded here. I walked out of his office, and the hallway felt heavier, like the building itself had swallowed me. That night, I didn't go to a bar with colleagues. I didn't do networking. I went somewhere no one asked who I knew. A tiny restoration workshop on the edge of Brooklyn. I'd signed up for a late-night class a year earlier, something to keep me from losing my mind, but I kept postponing it. Inside, it smelled like sawdust, lemon oil, and old paper. Warm lamps hung low. People worked quietly, sanding and repairing small pieces of the past like it mattered. "You're new," a guy said near the sink, drying his hands on a towel. His voice was calm, no New York rush, no flex. "Yeah," I admitted. "And honestly, I'm not sure I know how to do anything with my hands." He smiled, the way people smile when they don't need to prove anything. "Then you're in the right place. No one checks resumes here. I'm Eli." He showed me how to hold the tool, how not to press too hard, how to let the material tell you what it needs. And at some point, I caught myself thinking something that felt embarrassing and true. For the first time in a long time, someone wasn't looking at me like a function. I noticed two small details: a thin, straight scar on his wrist, clean, like a line, and a brass keychain with a tiny emblem on it, almost like a crest. I clocked them and moved on. Who needs crests in New York? We talked about things that didn't come with performance reviews: rain sounds, hidden fear, how people disguise loneliness with sarcasm. When I left, he said, "You look like you've been wearing someone else's mask all day. You don't have to wear it here." I didn't answer because my throat suddenly felt too tight. A week later, Harlan called me back. This time the folder on his desk was thicker. He slid out a printed photo, me and Eli leaving the workshop. The angle wasn't accidental, it was professional, taken from a car. "You think I won't see this?" he asked, like I'd missed a deadline. "Are you having me followed?" I asked, and my stomach dropped. "I'm protecting investments," he said evenly. "You are an investment. And this man," he flipped another page, "is not inside our perimeter." "He's not a threat," I said. "Anyone I can't control is a threat," Harlan replied. Then he stood and walked to the window. The city below looked like a toy he'd purchased. "You have a choice," he said. "Career or impulse?" He turned back to me. "You end it. Today. And we continue building your life." "And if I don't?" I asked. A shadow of a smile. "Then we'll see what you're worth without our name." I left his office with one thought repeating in my head. He'd just priced me. And for the first time, I decided, fine. That night, I told Eli everything. He listened without interrupting. Then he said, "So they want to put you on a shelf like a beautiful object." And in a voice so quiet it almost didn't exist, he added, "You're not an object." A month later, we were sitting on the fire escape outside his place. The air smelled like someone's pizza. Traffic hummed below. Eli handed me a small box, not velvet, not theatrical. Plain cardboard like he was afraid of making it too big. "I don't know what happens next," he said. "But I know I don't want you walking into it alone. Come with me." "Where?" I laughed, but it shook. "Do you even have a plan?" "I do," he said. "Halifax, Nova Scotia. I have obligations there." The word obligations landed strangely. Too formal, too official. I looked at the ring. Thin, no stone. But inside it there was a tiny engraving. 2 initials and a date. "What's the date?" I asked. He froze for half a beat, like someone recalculating a route. "It's a reminder," he said. "Some promises don't get forgotten." He smiled, but there was a crack in it. Small. And through that crack, I saw it. Eli was carrying something he hadn't told me. The system hit fast. First, my access to major cases was temporarily restricted. Then HR emailed me about a sudden compliance review. Then coworkers stopped making eye contact, like my name had become contagious. On day 3, my card declined. Then again. When I called, the bank politely told me there were questions about income verification. I knew exactly whose signature was on that. Friends stopped replying. One colleague finally texted, "I'm sorry, I can't be involved. I have a mortgage." It was the most honest message I got, and for the first time I faced a question I'd spent years running from. If I'm nothing without status, who am I? Eli stayed. "No, I told you so." He brought food, helped me pack, found us tickets, said, "We'll figure it out." But sometimes he took calls that didn't sound like casual calls. He stepped into the hallway, shut the door, and I caught fragments. "Yes, I understand. Not yet. It matters." When he came back, his eyes looked too collected for someone who was just a restorer. Then came the night that was supposed to be my triumph. The charity gala. A ballroom like a cathedral. Black and gold everywhere. Cameras, press, donor names on shining walls. I was given a smile like it was part of my dress code. Harlan approached me like we were allies. "You can still be smart," he whispered. "Walk away now, alone, without him." I saw Eli near the entrance. Simple dark suit, no flashy wealth. But the way he stood, calm, grounded, it felt like confidence you can't buy. The music lowered, glasses rose. Harlan took the microphone. "Friends," he began, smiling. "We all care about integrity and reputation. That's why I have to share something difficult." He turned toward me with a practiced pause. "An employee of our firm, Ms. Morgan, is under internal investigation, and her candidacy for partnership has been withdrawn." He let silence do the damage. "We cannot allow personal mistakes to endanger an institution of trust." A few people gasped. A few lifted their phones. The room felt like it was leaning toward me, waiting for my collapse. My knees shook under my dress. But I didn't move. I stepped forward. Not because I was fearless, because there was nowhere left to retreat. "I used to believe a person's worth is measured by who stands next to them in photos," I said, loud enough for the walls. "I used to believe if you do everything right, no one can touch you." I looked straight at Harlan. "But I've learned something. If someone can destroy you with a toast, then you were never living your life. I'm not rejecting my work. I'm rejecting your cage." Then I turned to the crowd. "And if you came to watch a tragedy, you came to the wrong room. Because the real tragedy is living someone else's script and calling it success." My voice trembled for 1 second. I inhaled. "I choose dignity. Even if tomorrow I have no job title, no credit card, no right friends. Because at least one thing should belong to me. Me. Did you expect that? Type shock if you didn't, or called it if you saw it coming. And yes, like and subscribe, because the twist that comes next is the part that made Harlan's hands shake. We left New York with almost nothing. I sold pieces of the life I'd once called an investment in my image. We rented a tiny place in Halifax, windows facing gray water. Wind that felt like it was testing your honesty. I hunted for work. Any work. For weeks, I woke up at 4 a.m. thinking, I ruined everything. Then I remembered, no, I just stopped building someone else's palace. Eli started leaving for meetings. He'd say, "I have to close something out." He came home late, smelling like cold air, and something official. Paper, metal door handles. Once I saw a thick card with gold embossing in his pocket. He tucked it away too quickly. That night he asked, out of nowhere, "Do you trust me?" "Yes," I said, even as a knot tightened inside my chest. "But I don't understand what's happening." He kissed my forehead. "You will," he said, "and you won't be scared." It sounded like a promise and a warning. 2 weeks later, I got invited to a regional forum on ethics and financial transparency. Boring on paper, except the same faces were there. The same donors, the same power circles. And, yes, Harlan Kane. He was on the program as an expert, smiling like my story was already buried. I sat in the back row in a simple jacket I bought on sale, feeling like a ghost of my old life. The host stepped up to the mic. "Before we present tonight's award," he said, "we're welcoming a representative of an independent oversight body who initiated a review of several major legal organizations." My stomach flipped. Eli stood. He took off his jacket like it was routine. Under his sleeve, I saw that clean line of a scar again. Not from a workshop, from something else. He walked onto the stage. "Good evening," he said into the microphone, and his voice, his real voice, was different, not casual, not soft, official. "My name is Eli Carter," he continued, "and I'm a lead investigator for professional misconduct oversight, working alongside federal auditors. Tonight, I'm presenting findings from a review that began after multiple reports, one of them triggered by an attempt to publicly destroy someone's career." I stared at him as the world inside me turned over. Obligations. He meant a case. The screen behind him lit up with charts, timelines, names, and connections. And then I saw it. Kane, centered like a target. Harlan's smile didn't survive a full second. He shifted in his seat, suddenly too human. Eli kept going. "Funds raised at charity events were routed through intermediary entities labeled consulting and communications. In reality, they were used to pressure investigations and manipulate employment decisions." Then he looked straight at Harlan. "And yes, Mr. Kane, we have call records, invoices, witness statements, and your signature." The room moved like someone had opened a window and let in ice. Harlan shot up. "This is absurd," he barked. "This is revenge. This is—" The host, pale, cut in carefully. "Mr. Kane, please remain seated. Representatives are here." The doors opened. 2 people in dark suits approached his row. Cameras swung. Whispers became a roar. And Eli, my wrong choice, stood on that stage with a calm you can't buy. Harlan lost control in public, and this time it wasn't a performance. It was consequence. After the forum, Harlan somehow forced a moment with me in the corridor. His voice had changed, softer, negotiating. "Tessa," he said, "let's be rational. You're smart. We can make this manageable. I can restore your position, references, money. Just say it was a misunderstanding, Rarichao." I looked at him and felt something I didn't expect. How fast a god turns into a salesman. Eli stepped closer, but he didn't shield me. He didn't speak for me. He just stood beside me like support, not ownership. "You're used to buying people," I said, "and if that doesn't work, you break them." "But my price isn't in your currency anymore," Harlan swallowed. "You don't understand what you'll lose." I smiled, real, for the first time. "I already lost it. And I survived." "Now I choose boundaries," Eli added quietly, without threat. "Influence doesn't protect you when it's built on fear. It only delays the fall." Harlan opened his mouth, but someone called his name, and the people in suits were already waiting. He walked away, looking over his shoulder like a man who'd finally run out of numbers to dial. Now I live in Halifax. I don't work in a glossy tower. I work with an organization that helps people push back against corporate coercion. I don't have my old wardrobe, but I sleep without panic. And I have someone beside me who saw the real me and never tried to make me convenient. Here are the 3 things I learned. 1. Status is rented. Dignity is owned. 2. If love makes you braver, it's not weakness, it's truth. 3. The person controlling your life fears your no more than anything. Thanks for listening to the end. Subscribe. Hit the bell if you want more stories like this. No sugarcoating. And tell me in the comments, would you walk away from the perfect career for freedom or stay and fight inside the system?